Not every hand extended to you was meant to lift you up. Some were daggers disguised as fingers. Well, well, well. Look who's still standing. You. They prayed for your collapse. They wanted your knees shattered, your voice silenced, your crown cracked before it ever touched your head. And yet here you are, breathing, watching, listening, still here. Tell me, do you remember every handshake? Every cold palm dressed in warmth, every smile stitched from lies, every nod that said I see you but whispered, I'll bury you. Because that's what it was. A ritual. A performance. Not a greeting. See, people don't always stab you in the back. No, the clever ones. They shake your hand with one grip, and in the other they sharpen the knife, and you felt it. Didn't you? That tension? That electricity under the skin? That split second when your spirit screamed, this isn't real? But you played along. You smiled back, because you were trained to, because the world told you, keep the peace, don't cause waves. Oh, but waves. Waves were coming anyway. Because here's the truth. Behind those rehearsed laughs, behind the rehearsed toasts, behind those carefully polished masks, they were praying for your fall, not with folded hands and gentle hymns, no, but with envy, with venom, with a secret hunger. Do you know what envy does in a man's chest? It eats him alive. It festers, grows teeth, it claws at the ribs. And the only relief he finds is to see you dragged lower, lower, lower until your shine looks like his shadow. But you didn't fold. You didn't crawl. You didn't shatter. Instead, you learned the weight of betrayal in a handshake. You learned the sound of poison disguised as applause. You learned the language of false friends who sit across the table, sip from your glass, and still pray your ruin when the lights go down, and that's why you're dangerous now. Because survival changed you. Every false grip, every staged embrace, every snake with a painted smile turned you into something sharper, something harder, something they can no longer read, no longer predict, no longer control, and they hate it. Oh, they hate it, because the script has flipped, hasn't it? You're not the desperate one clawing for their approval anymore. They are. They can't even meet your eyes without choking on the memory of their secret prayers. Do you feel it? That silence in the room when you walk in? That stiffness? That dart of the eyes to the floor? That's not respect. It's fear. Fear of the proof. Fear that you know. Fear that you've seen through them, through every handshake that was. Really a dagger in disguise, and maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But oh, the terror is the same. Because proof is a funny thing. Proof doesn't just sit quietly on the table. Proof is a plague. Proof is thunder. Proof spreads. And once it escapes their control, it burns their carefully built castles to ash. And here you are, the living proof, the undeniable witness, the one they could not erase. Now let me ask you this. How does it feel to know you were right all along? How does it feel to realize the very hands that pretended to lift you were really dragging you toward the pit? And yet, somehow you climbed higher than ever. Because that's your power, not the crown they tried to keep from you, not the throne they told you wasn't yours. Your power is survival in the face of sabotage. Your power is proof, proof that their curses didn't work, proof that their prayers went unanswered, proof that you are still here. And the best part, this is just the beginning. Stay with me, because the real betrayal hasn't even been revealed yet. Behind every toast, behind every cheer, there were whispers begging for your collapse. You thought the applause was real, didn't you? You thought the laughter, the clinking of glasses, the staged congratulations meant loyalty? But loyalty doesn't whisper in dark corners. Loyalty doesn't choke when your name enters the room. Loyalty doesn't pray for your destruction. And yet, it's exactly what they did. Oh, they didn't gather in churches, no. They didn't kneel in holy silence, no. Their prayers were born in boardrooms, whispered in bedrooms, poured out in midnight phone calls, when envy boiled too loud to swallow. Do you know what their prayers sounded like? Not hymns, not blessings, but curses. 1,000 little incantations, muttered under fake smiles. Let them fail. Let them crack. let them crawl. Behind every toast there was a secret ritual, a ritual of downfall. A chorus of cowards disguised as friends. Tell me, how many rooms have you walked into, glowing, shining, alive only, to feel the temperature drop? That wasn't the air. That was them. That was their obsession pressing against the walls, choking the oxygen, suffocating the joy. Because you scare them. You always have. Why? Because you remind them of what they could never be. Because every step you take is thunder against their silence. Because every scar you carry makes you untouchable, and their spotless masks feel brittle next to your truth. And so, they prayed. They prayed not with reverence, but with desperation. They prayed you would collapse so they could finally breathe easy. They prayed for your downfall, because your survival was the proof they could never erase. Do you see it now? The way they circle, the way they study you, the way they mimic your words, your moves. Your fire until their envy boils over. They are obsessed. Obsessed with your rise. Obsessed with your resilience. Obsessed with the crown they know was never theirs. And when obsession meets fear, it turns into something darker. Turns into a prayer. Not a prayer to God. Not a prayer to saints. But a curse, whispered contract with shadows. Take them down. Bury them. Break them. But here's the truth. Prayers like that never reach heaven. They rot in the mouths of the bitter. They circle back like blades, slicing the very hands that raised them, and while they prayed for your fall, you kept rising. While they whispered curses, you breathed proof. While they begged the universe to bury you, the universe crowned you instead. Oh, and doesn't that drive them mad? Because now the very thing they prayed against has become unstoppable. You're not just surviving, you're thriving.
You're right.
Haunting their every silent night, you're the unanswered prayer, the one that defied their ritual. Do you feel it? The shift. It's the way their whispers have turned into panic. Because they know the secret is out. The mask is slipping. And soon, someone will drag their curses into the light, and you need to know who risked everything to drag this secret into the light. Not everyone prayed for your collapse. Not every whisper was a curse. Because somewhere in the shadows, voice refused to be silent. One voice. One soul. And that was enough. Do you know how rare that is? In a world where loyalty is auctioned to the highest bidder, in a world where masks sell faster than truth, to find someone willing to stand in the fire for you, it's almost impossible. And yet it happened. They didn't have to. They could have. Stayed comfortable. They could have sat in their safe little chair, nodding along with the cowards, clinking glasses with the liars, hiding behind smiles that smelled like rot. But something inside them cracked. Something inside them couldn't stand the hypocrisy. They saw the curses, the prayers, the rituals whispered against your name. And they snapped. They stepped out. With that step, they risked it all. Their reputation, their seat at the table, their own protection. Gone the moment they chose you. Tell me, how many would do that for you? How many would stand when the room hisses, sit? How many would throw themselves into the fire? Not because they'd survive it, but because you needed to. And that's what this ally did. They cracked the wall. They shattered the silence. They pulled back the curtain, and suddenly, the world saw what had been hidden all along. Because loyalty like that isn't quiet. It roars. It roars through locked doors. It roars through trembling halls. It roars so loud that even those who prayed against you can't deny it anymore. And now the stage is shifting. Because when one voice dares to tell the truth, the lie starts to collapse. And when one soul refuses to bow, the empire of betrayal begins to tremble. You know why this matters? Because for the first time, you're not standing alone. The first time, the fire is shared, and that fire, it spreads. Do you feel it? That heat in your chest? That's not just survival anymore. That's loyalty ignited. It's proof that not everyone was against you. And that one spark is enough to burn down an empire of lies. Because they risked it all, you now have proof. Because they risked it all, you now have witness. Because they risked it all, you now have a weapon, and the ones who cursed you. The ones Who prayed for your fall? They don't know it yet. But the truth has slipped through their fingers. The cracks are spreading. Walls, no matter how high, eventually break. Now let's watch what happens when truth finally escapes the walls. They built. They thought the walls were thick enough. They thought the doors were sealed tight. They thought the whispers would stay hidden forever. But thunder doesn't stay silent. And truth has a way of shaking every ceiling. Now look around. The rooms they built, the boardrooms, the halls, the secret gatherings where your name was dissected like prey are cracking. Those polished tables, those heavy curtains, those soundproof walls, none of them can contain what's leaking out, because when thunder hits, it doesn't ask permission. It rolls through every chamber. It rattles every glass, shakes the paintings right off the wall. Do you see it? Do you feel it? The collapse has begun? At first it was whispers, a nervous glance across the table, stammer when your name slipped into the conversation, a hand that couldn't stop shaking while pouring the wine. Then the whispers turned to shouts, accusations hurled, alliances questioned, smiles fractured into snarls, and suddenly the unity they bragged about is nothing but smoke. Because betrayal breeds paranoia, because lies demand more lies. Eventually, even the liars can't keep track of their own script, so the rooms tilt. The walls creak, the floors split under the weight of their guilt. You don't even have to be there. You don't have to walk into those meetings, those halls. Your absence is enough. Your survival is enough. Because every breath you take out here is an earthquake in there, and the truth? Oh, the truth is spreading like a plague. It leaks under doors. It crawls through vents. It rides the very air they breathe. And no matter how many hands they raise to block it, it slips through fingers. Like smoke. One by one, they turn on each other. Who spoke? Who revealed? Who carried the proof into the light? Their eyes dart like hunted animals. Their smiles rot into grimaces. And in their desperation, they begin to devour each other. Because that's the thing about thunder. It doesn't just roar once. It echoes. Again and again. And again. And with every echo, their empire shakes. The doors that once locked you out, now they're prison bars trapping them inside with their own lies, and you stand outside, untouched, watching their collapse like the storm watches the burning field. Do you understand the poetry of it? The very walls they've built to keep you powerless are now the walls caving in on them. They can't control it anymore. They can't smother it anymore. The plague is faster. The thunder is louder. The collapse is already written, and here's the part that will haunt them most. It wasn't your revenge that did it. It was their own hands, their own whispers, and their own fear. Because you didn't have to raise a weapon. You are the weapon, the proof, the survival, the thunder. The crown, and once thunder rolls, once the plague spreads, there is no going back. The rooms are breaking. The empire is splintering. And the game they tried to control has spun out of their hands. They prayed for your death. And now they are. Choking on each other's silence, listen closely. Do you hear it? It's not applause, not celebration, not the clink of glasses they once raised against your name. No. What you hear now is gnawing, teeth tearing at trust, tongues biting down on their own secrets. A feast of fear served cold in the banquet hall of betrayal. They thought you would be the one devoured. But look again, the carcass on the table. Isn't you it's them, their empire, their brotherhood, their golden alliance? Now nothing more than meat picked clean by their own hands. Because paranoia is a parasite. And once it takes root, it spreads faster than truth itself. Every smile curdles into suspicion. Every ally becomes an enemy. Every whisper is heard as a confession, and so they turn. They turn sharp as knives. They turn desperate as starving wolves. The ones who once toasted to your fall are now tasting the bitterness of each other's. Betrayal, do you see the beauty in it? You didn't need to swing the sword. You didn't need to poison their cups. They poured the venom themselves. And now, with every sip, their throats close tighter. The rooms that once echoed with your condemnation now echo with accusations of their own. Who spoke? Who leaked? Who carried the proof into the light? The questions gnaw. The answers never satisfy. So like cannibals, they bite deeper. Watch how it plays out. It's the empire that called itself eternal, feasting on its own flesh. The generals tearing the crowns from each other's heads. The loyalists gnashing at the wrists of the very hands they once kissed. And all of it because they feared you, because truth was too heavy, because your survival was too loud, because proof was too bright for their shadowed halls. So, they chew, they claw, they gnash, until nothing remains but blood on their own tongues. And here's the irony that cuts deepest. They prayed for your silence. And now it is silence that kills them, not your words, not your revenge, their silence. Their refusal to confess, to trust, to face the truth. In that silence, suspicion grows teeth. In that silence, loyalty rots. In that silence, the dogs of empire devour their master's throne. You stand untouched. Scarred? Yes, marked. Yes, but whole. Watching from the storm, while they dine on the corpse of their own deception. And isn't that what power truly is? Not in striking first, but in standing still, and letting their hunger eat them alive. They thought you'd be forgotten, but you became the ghost at their table. Every bite reminds them of you. Every swallow tastes of your survival. Every silence screams your name. They thought they were wounding you. They thought they were carving weakness into your flesh. But the joke's on them, because every cut, every lash, every betrayal they branded onto your body became something else. A scar. And a scar is not weakness, it is armor. Do you understand? The wounds they thought would end, you have hardened into shields they cannot penetrate. The humiliation they served became the fire that tempered your steel. The shame they tried to drown you in became the river that baptized you into something untouchable. And now, when they look at you, they don't see the victim. They see the survivor wrapped in iron. They see the shadow of their own failure staring back at them in your unbroken eyes. Let me paint the truth. They gave you knives in the back, but you walked away wearing daggers as medals. They poured poison into your veins. But your blood learned to drink venom and spit thunder. They dragged your name through mud. But mud, when pressed long enough, becomes clay. And clay, under fire, becomes brick. And brick by brick, you built the fortress of yourself. Do you see it now? You are the fortress. You are the citadel. No arrow can touch you, because you are covered in scars that do not bleed anymore. Every whisper of betrayal hammered into your chest is steel. Every mocking laugh melted into iron plating on your shoulders. Every attempt to bury you pressed into a foundation so deep no storm can shake it. And here comes the image they cannot stand. Because in the middle of this armor, there sits a crown. Yes, it's a crown they tried to strip from you. It's a crown they tried to break. It's a crown they swore would never rest on your head again. But here's the truth. They weren't stripping it. They were forging it. Every scar was not theft. It was smelting. Every loss was not punishment. It was shaping. And the hands that tried to rip your crown away were the same hands that ended up building it for you. Because you do not wear a crown handed down by mercy. You wear the crown burned into existence by suffering. And that kind of crown cannot be taken not by envy, not by betrayal, not by the curses of those who prayed for your fall. Now, when they see you walk into the room, they see something untouchable. Not because you escaped pain, but because you absorbed it. Not because you avoided betrayal, but because you let it sculpt you and what they built to destroy you. It's exactly what made you immortal. That is the cruelty of fate. That is the comedy they cannot laugh at. That is the punchline. They buried you under dirt. They painted over your story. They whispered that you were finished, erased, forgotten. But here's the punchline. The harder they tried to erase you, the deeper your name carved itself into eternity. They didn't erase you. They engraved you. And stone remembers longer than paper. Understand this. You are no longer just a survivor crawling through ashes. You are not just a figure walking away from ruins. You are the ruins and the temple that rises from them. You are permanence. You are legend. They cannot rewrite what's already burned into history. They cannot edit what thunder has already shouted into the sky. And when you walk into the room now, you don't just enter, the game itself bends around you. Do you feel it? The crown is settled. Not a crown given, not a crown borrowed, but a crown forged in fire, sealed by scars, kissed by storms. And here's the cruel irony. The same mouths that spat poison are now forced to speak your name. The same hands that pushed daggers are now clapping, trembling, pretending it was always loyalty. The same eyes that watched you bleed now lower themselves, afraid to meet the gaze of the crowned one. Because you didn't just survive them, you made their betrayal immortal. Every curse they prayed against you became your scripture. Every attempt to bury you became your resurrection. Every dagger they aimed at your back became another jewel welded into the crown they swore you'd never wear. And now they look at you and realize the throne is not wood, it's fire. And you don't sit on it gently. You burn on it, and the flame makes you untouchable. You have become symbol, and symbols do not die. Symbols bend knees. Symbols change tides. Symbols outlive flesh, outlive envy, outlive the whispers of cowards. And here's the thing they never understood. You were never chasing revenge. You were never trying to even the score. Because revenge is mortal. Revenge dies when the blood dries. But correction? Correction lasts forever. You didn't come back to punish them. You came back to balance the scales, to remind the world that betrayal has a cost. To prove that faith, even if it's only your faith in yourself, always outlives the prayers of your enemies. That's what they fear the most. That it wasn't revenge. It was correction. It was inevitability. It was permanence. And permanence cannot be killed. Not with daggers. Not with lies. Not with prayers whispered in the dark. Because the crown you wear now, they cannot deny it. They cannot unsee it. They cannot stop it from shining in every shadow they crawl into. This is your coronation, not the cheap theater of applause, not the empty ceremony of titles, but the real one, the moment where you realize you were. Never just a name. You were the storm. You were the fire. You were the crown all along. Revenge. That's the game of the desperate, the short flame, the quick stab in the dark, but you were never desperate. You were destined, and destiny doesn't seek revenge. Destiny corrects. Do you see the difference? Revenge is a scream loud, reckless, gone in seconds. Correction is thunder. Correction is inevitable. Correction bends the sky itself, until the lie snaps in half. They thought you came back for blood. They thought you came back to hurt them the way they hurt you. But you didn't? No, you came back to prove something deeper. That truth never dies. That storms don't apologize. That crowns don't ask permission. You are not here to punish. You are here to restore, to reset the balance, to show the world that every false empire crumbles, and every scar you carry becomes scripture etched into eternity, because you are not a season. You are a standard, not a flicker in the wind, but the wind itself, not a name on paper, but the stone that paper burns upon. Listen closely. This isn't about them anymore. Not the ones who whispered, not the ones who prayed against you, not the ones who smiled with knives behind their teeth. They are irrelevant now. Dust. Forgotten footnotes in the story of your ascension, because this final chapter isn't there. Collapse. It's your permanence. You are the correction. The proof that betrayal was never stronger than truth. The living echo that cannot be silenced. The crown that gleams even in the dark. And here's what terrifies them most. You don't need revenge to win. You are the win. You are the storm they tried to deny, the fire they couldn't smother, the name they tried to erase, now carved into stone. Forever so, when they see you now, when they hear your voice thunder through the cracks of their old world, they realize it's too late. They realize you weren't fighting for survival. You were claiming inevitability.